I had 847 contacts in my phone. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances, people I met once at a conference 5 years ago. My calendar was full. My notifications never stopped. I was connected to everyone, and I'd never felt more alone in my life. So one night at 2 a.m., staring at my phone with tears in my eyes, I did something crazy. I opened my contacts and started deleting, one by one. I didn't stop until I hit 82. And what happened next completely changed my lifelet. Let me ask you something honest. How many people in your phone would actually show up if you called them at 3 a.m. with a real problem? Not a text, not a like on your post. Actually show up. If you're like I was, the answer is terrifying. We're living in the most connected era in human history, yet we're lonelier than ever. We collect contacts like trophies, but we're starving for real connection. I spent years building a network of hundreds of people, attending every event, saying yes to every coffee meeting, replying to every message. I thought I was building relationships, but I was actually building a prison. And the bars were made of obligation, superficiality, and exhaustion. This is the story of how I broke free. Let me tell you about the loneliest moment of my life. It wasn't when I was sitting alone in my apartment. It wasn't during those late nights when the world was asleep and I was wide awake. No, the loneliest moment of my life was when I was surrounded by 30 empty chairs at my own birthday dinner. 30 chairs, I'd reserved them, paid for them, sent out invitations 3 weeks in advance, followed up, reminded people, made it easy for them to say yes. And 4 people showed up. 4. 2 of them were my parents, God bless them. And the other 2 were acquaintances who happened to be free that evening. I there at the head of that table looking at those empty chairs, and I did what most of us do in moments like that. I made excuses. Oh, you know, people are busy, life happens, everyone's got their own things going on, it's not personal, it's fine. But here's the thing about lies we tell ourselves. We can only tell them for so long before the truth comes crashing through like a freight train through a paper wall. I drove home that night, 32 years old, supposedly successful, supposedly connected, supposedly living the dream, and I sat in my car in the driveway for 45 minutes. Just sat there. Couldn't bring myself to go inside, couldn't bring myself to face the emptiness. So I did what we all do when we don't want to face ourselves. I pulled out my phone and I scrolled through Instagram, through Facebook, through text messages, through my contacts list, 847 contacts. 847 names, 847 people I was supposedly connected to. Friends from college I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. Colleagues from jobs I'd left half a decade ago. People I'd met at networking events whose faces I couldn't even remember. Acquaintances of acquaintances. People who'd asked for my number once and never called. People I'd given my number to and wished I hadn't. 847 connections. And I'd never felt more disconnected in my entire life. Now, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. Don't just hear the words, let them sink in. How many people in your phone right now would actually show up if you needed them? I'm not talking about a like on your post. I'm not talking about a thinking of you text message. I'm talking about 3 o'clock in the morning, your world is falling apart, you need someone to sit with you in the dark. Who answers that call? Be honest with yourself. Because I had to get honest with myself that night, and the answer damn near killed me. I realized something's sitting in that car. I realized I'd spent the last decade of my life collecting people like they were baseball cards, networking, building connections, expanding my circle, saying yes to every coffee meeting, every lunch invitation, every event, every opportunity to build my network. I thought I was investing in relationships. But I wasn't investing in relationships. I was performing, I was maintaining, I was managing a database of human beings who didn't actually know me and who I didn't actually know. And the brutal, soul-crushing truth that I had to face that night was this. I was the common denominator in every single one of those one-sided relationships. I was always the one reaching out first, always the one checking in, always the one remembering birthdays, sending the text, making the plans, showing up early, staying late. I was the one doing all the work. And I'd convinced myself that this was what friendship looked like, that this was what connection required. But it's not. What I was doing wasn't building relationships. It was begging for scraps of attention from people who'd never once offered me a full meal. Let me tell you what nobody wants to admit. There are people in your life right now who are draining you. People who take and take and take and never give back. People who only call when they need something. People who are perfectly happy to have you in their life as long as it's convenient, as long as it costs them nothing, as long as you're the one making all the effort. And the reason we keep these people around isn't because we value them. It's because we're terrified of what it means to let them go. We're terrified of being alone. We're terrified of having a smaller circle. We're terrified that if we burn bridges, we won't have anywhere to stand. So we hold on to relationships that died years ago, carrying the corpse around, pretending it's still breathing, wondering why we feel so exhausted all the time. I sat in that car staring at those 847 names, and I made a decision that changed my life. I decided to get ruthless, not cruel, not vindictive, not angry, but ruthless in the way a gardener is ruthless when they prune a tree. You cut away the dead branches not because you hate the tree, but because you love it enough to want it to thrive. I created 3 criteria, 3 simple questions I would ask about every single person in my phone. Number 1, have we had a meaningful conversation in the last 6 months? Not small talk, not surface level check-ins, a real conversation where we actually saw each other. Number 2, do I feel energized or drained after spending time with this person? Do I leave our interactions feeling fuller or emptier? Number 3, if I disappeared tomorrow, would they notice within a week? That's it, 3 questions. And if someone didn't meet at least 2 out of 3, they were gone. I started deleting, and let me tell you, very single deletion felt like a small death. My thumb would hover over the name and my mind would race. But what if I need them someday? What if they get offended? What if this is a mistake? What if I'm being too harsh? What if I regret this? Fear, fear, fear. But here's what I learned. Fear is not wisdom. Fear is not discernment. Fear is just fear. And most of the time, the thing we're really afraid of isn't losing the person. It's facing the truth about the relationship we never actually had. I deleted the college friend I hadn't spoken to since graduation. Gone. I deleted the networking contact who only texted me when he wanted an introduction to someone in my company. Gone. I deleted the cousin who only showed up at family events to borrow money. Gone. I deleted the friend who spent every conversation talking about herself and never once asked how I was doing. Gone. One by one, name by name. Until 847 became 82 people. That's out 847. Only 82 made the cut. And you know what I felt when I was done? Terror. Because suddenly, my phone was quiet. Too quiet. The notifications stopped. The text dried up. The invitations disappeared. And I was left alone with the truth I'd been avoiding for years. Most of my social life had been an elaborate performance to avoid feeling exactly what I was feeling in that moment. Alone. But here's the thing about being alone. And listen to this carefully because this is important. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. I'd been lonely for years surrounded by 800 people. But when I was finally alone with 82, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Because those 82 people, they were real. They showed up, they called back, they remembered, they cared. And when I invested my time and energy into them instead of spreading it across 800 one-sided relationships, something miraculous happened. The relationships got deeper. Instead of having surface-level check-ins with 50 people I barely knew, I had real, vulnerable, messy, beautiful conversations with 5 people who actually knew me. We talked about our failures, our fears, our dreams, our doubts, the kind of conversations that remind you what it means to be human, the kind of connections that feed your soul instead of draining it. And here's what I want you to understand. You cannot build deep relationships while maintaining shallow ones. It's impossible. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough energy. You don't have enough emotional bandwidth. Every hour you spend texting someone you don't care about is an hour you're not spending with someone you do. Every coffee meeting with a networking contact you'll never see again is a coffee meeting you're not having with a friend who actually matters. Every ounce of energy you pour into relationships that don't feed you is energy you're stealing from the relationships that could. You think you're being kind by keeping everyone around. You think you're being generous with your time. You think you're being a good person by never saying no, never setting boundaries, never letting anyone go. But you're not. You're being a coward I know that's hard to hear, but it's true, because real love, real friendship requires the courage to be selective. It requires the strength to say, not everyone gets access to me. It requires the wisdom to know that your time on this earth is finite and precious, and every moment you give to someone who doesn't value it is a moment you can never get back. So let me ask you again, how many people in your phone would show up at 3 in the morning? Because that number, that real number, that's your circle. Everyone else is just noise.